What eliminated playoff teams do you think is under the most pressure this offseason?
Can I be basic?
The Lakers.
And say my Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh,
You have Luka Doncic. You got to figure it out. It's that simple. You're under the most pressure. Rob Pelinka is under the most pressure to figure it out and get us past the first round at the absolute minimum. It's already reported that LeBron James is going to accept his player option, which I'm nervous. Does this mean this is the last season I get to watch my glorious king? I'm scared. I'm nervous. I hope that's not the case. But now there's even more pressure on Rob Pelinka. Now you have to deliver in LeBron's final season to at least try and put a contending team forward. You need to go and get a center. You need to go and get a point of attack. There's so many things that we need to go out and do. We need to get some more spacing on the floor. We need a lot on this team. I look at us and think we are under the most pressure because we have the GOAT retiring and arguably the best point guard in basketball who had something to prove this upcoming season.
There's no argument.
No,
SG is better.
Argument.
But I'll say this.
Now, how quickly we fall. One season of basketball, man. I really love the game. It's beautiful.
We're a biased podcast, Drew. You know this.
Like, Not me.
You know
Never a day in my life have I ever been biased on this show.
You took Tatum over Luka.
Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso. I want to take a different.
Who did I take over him?
Tatum.
Tatum over who?
You
Luka.
said Reeves over Luka.
When did I say? Wait, I took Tatum over Luka in 2022. Is that what we're saying?
2023.
No, 2022. 2023 was my year of forgiving myself for all the wrongs I've said.
You took
2024 was last year. Adding the year.
Yo, you're cooking. That's on me.
Yes.
2022, Tatum was special. Went to the finals. 2023, Tatum started to lose me because his jump shot was dog shit. Then 2024, his jump shot was extremely dog shit.
Like,
but I was here on Luka Doncic.
Yes.
Can't forget that because of the jump shot.
So just to be clear, you're saying how quickly we forget when you were the guy who was lowest on Luka a year ago. And then he played way worse.
Luka was my MVP.
He was.
But you had Tatum over him.
No.
More so.
Okay.
Carson, it's a year and a half ago.
From 2 years ago. That's insane.
Well, it's not. It's the start last season. The start of last season, you had Tatum over Luka.
As he should have been.
Yeah.
Carson,
what are we doing?
How have you gotten higher on Luka in that time?
His three-point shot.
Because he became a Los Angeles Laker.
Was sex.
Yeah, cooked out fucking
last year. Last year was the best Luka player.
100%. His three ball last year was unbelievable. He was shooting like almost 10 threes a game.
38% for sure.
The people who really watch Luka know that
Tatum's jump shot is.
Joel was about to say some bullshit.
The best version of Luka was 2022, 2023.
The best Luka, you saying?
The best Luka individually.
I mean, Luka just went to the finals last year. Like, he was pretty good.
And that wasn't his best. And it really wasn't his best.
He should have won MVP last year.
Well, the hard thing is, I think that last year was definitely his best regular season, even though like some of the rim pressure stuff had declined already, just because if Luka shoots 38% from three on 11 threes per game, like, and he was getting to the rim still much more effectively than he was this year when that fell off to another level. Like, I do think that was the best regular season, but last year was definitely not his best postseason.
That was one of his longest, though.
The best Luka.
It was his longest postseason, but it wasn't his best.
The Luka they made the midseason trade for Kyrie that year, which was 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, when they were the 10th seed.
That was the best Luka, but their team was terrible.
And he also got hurt, so I don't care.
They tanked. They tanked down the stretch.
They did. They missed the playoffs.
Because they had a top 10.
Literally missed the playoffs, and I'm supposed to say that that's the best Luka.
Crazy.
To get back on track here, because we're a group of handsome men that tend to fall off the rails a little bit.
We have ADHD.
We do. Let's lock back in though. Pressure. Who has the most pressure?
Is it not the Lakers? Like, no. Being dead serious, is it not the Lakers?
I think I want to take a different approach. You're
gonna go Cavaliers?
No, I actually want to say the Rockets. I want to say the Rockets.
Interesting.
And I want to explain why I say the Rockets, because they may not have the most pressure.
They might have the least pressure.
But they have a different type of pressure because you watched OKC make the finals. You have, these young teams coming up in the world. Indiana's a relatively young, actually, really, I would say Indiana outside of Miles Turner, really young team.
And the Rockets have playoff JG.
And the Rockets are in a position where
JG.
They have playoff
Amen. I love you, Dels.
Playoff amen. And that is a real thing.
Keep it in your pants, Carson. I can see it poking.
I'm fully erect.
They have an interesting summer because what do you do with Jalen Green this summer? How do you How
Wanna
do
get
you
better?
make that move to get better? You're sitting here and you're in all these conversations for Giannis, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. You're at the top of the board with all these players. You have this draft capital. You have the 10th overall pick. You've now tasted the playoffs. You've had last year where you finished strong at the end of the year. You had opportunity to be in the play-in. You missed it, if I'm not mistaken, unfortunately. Then this year you jump to a top 3 seed. You make the playoffs. You lose a tough 7 games to the greatest player I've ever seen in my life. And then now you're sitting here and you have Jalen Green on the roster. You have Alperen Şengün. You have Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, Tari. You have all this young youth talent just sipping and pouring out of you. What are you going to do with it? I think their pressure is really different. I think their pressure is more just about them not making them like Joel, you mentioned with Minnesota. You don't want them to make a move that's too over the top. You don't want them to make a drastic move that ruins everything.
Well, they need to.
Yeah, I think Houston is in that situation where they're like, this is a make or break offseason in a sense of they can do nothing and maybe potentially not get the same modest improvements from all their young players. They can do something and it kind of ruin the chemistry or just ruin the team, like just the team foundation, or they can do something big and it makes them greater. I think that type of pressure for them. And then, of course, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, who really has bigger pressure than them? A team that was like the #1 seed in the league, one of the best offensive teams in the league, went to the playoffs, dealt with injuries, played like shit. You now have an offseason where you're looking to be more open to trading Jared Allen and Darius Garland because you're trying to win in this Donovan Mitchell era. You're trying to make this team a legit team. You're trying to make it ECF, and you're sitting there. You've seen Indiana make it 2 years in a row. You've seen the Knicks propel themselves to an ECF. You're kind of that one team that's sitting out where you haven't made that ECF yet. You know, Boston's done it, New York's done it, Indiana's done it. You're that one team sitting out that hasn't made it. That's another team where Kenny Atkinson, this is his first year, but you overachieved so much in your first year that just automatically breeds a lot of expectations.
Do you think they have to actually be aggressive this offseason, though? Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Just real quick, like when you're talking about pressure on the Cavs, obviously they have to perform better next year, but do they have to make a big change this offseason?
Jared Allen has to go.
You think he has to go?
Yeah,
Interesting.
Has to go.
It depends on the package they get. I think if they could get a premier wing defender for Allen, it makes a lot of sense because they need to upgrade their perimeter defense.
Yeah,
You know who has to
if
go?
you walk into next year,
to go.
like Carson, if you walk in next year with the same roster, I think you didn't fumble the offseason.
I don't know if I totally agree, just because I think like getting fully healthy is a huge factor for them. Jared Allen absolutely has to be better. And like, I do think that their best configuration long-term is Mobley at the 5. That being said, the double big stuff is very effective, at least in the regular season. And it gives them 30 minutes from each of those bigs where you always have a really good center on the floor. And the challenge for me with Allen is like, that guy's making $20 million a year. He's not a perfect basketball player, but he's a very good value contract. Can you move off of him and get a player who is as good or better? That's the challenge. And that's where I'm like with Cleveland. I'd run it back one more year, see what happens when we're fully healthy, see what version of Garland we get in the playoffs, see if Mobley can even expand his game a little bit more offensively. Because especially with Boston out of the picture, sorry, Dels, like, are you not at least co-favorite in the East next year with Indiana? Like, that's the thing. I just feel like they're looking at a
so
field
New York just
the most
nowhere near. Like, golly, Carson.
They're healthy. I don't know. Like, I still feel like
Carson's just overlooking the Knicks.
Yo,
the Cavs are better than the Knicks.
Oh, but they didn't make the conference finals, Carson.
If the Pacers,
to the same team that's
beat
about
the
to
Knicks,
we
too,
lost the defending. We beat the defending champions.
they got hurt.
Well, they shit themselves. They soiled themselves on national
but
TV.
the Cavaliers didn't, huh? The Pacers.
No, listen. Okay, first of all, do we not care about injuries at all? Do we not care about the fact that it was brutal to even watch Darius Garland try to move because he couldn't explode without tripping and falling all over himself over and over again? And then even Donovan Mitchell couldn't explode in the last game.
Indiana that you're saying is now co-favorites.
Yeah, because I think that they're a much better team than we saw in that series when they were banged up.
Celtics who were favorites
the Knicks are up there.
finals.
The Boston Celtics.
Torn meniscus,
Well, Dels, let's
JB,
not do that.
Porzingis couldn't breathe. Tatum gets hurt.
Porzingis really couldn't breathe.
Porzingis has never been a good playoff performer.
Couldn't move, couldn't shoot.
Yeah,
no, what we saw from
it would have been
Porzingis
better
was
if he didn't
truly
play at all,
that was the closest thing I've ever seen to like an actual Monstars. They took your abilities from basketball player. What we saw from Porzingis, that was unbelievable.
That was nuts.
But I just believe in the Cavs more. I think that their offense is significantly more potent than the Knicks. I think that they have a better defensive infrastructure. I think that they ran into a hell of a team in the Pacers, who are also about to beat the Knicks. And I think that they got really banged up at the wrong time. They are.
Realistically,
Andrew,
I swear to God, you better hook it up.
Drew, they're gonna make the finals, and you called this dude a bum this very year. The pressure is not on my takes here.
No. This very year, I haven't.
You called him a bum, Drew?
How
could you?
In 2025, no, I haven't.
He's worse than LaMelo.
Riv is off the hook because Riv's playing this honorably, and I respect it.
No, I'm playing this honorably. I'm just holding you accountable.
There's nothing to hold me accountable for. I'm right. I've been right.
I don't want to hear it. And you continue to disrespect the New York Knicks, the co-favorites, to a team that absolutely gagged it. Stop.
Who gagged it? The
The
Celtics?
Cavaliers.
Oh,
yeah.
Cavs got hurt. Celtics got hurt. Riv, they just got hurt.
They don't care about
Riv,
that.
now don't play the injury shit. Don't do it.
I haven't. I've never done it.
All right, I'm just keeping you accountable as well.
Listen,
Injuries.
Carson's talking about the injury. I have not said one thing about the injury.
I'm just
It's
keeping
just
you
the
accountable.
truth. It's context.
I like
Like,
that.
I did
Riz.
watch Darius Garland limp up the floor and like he really couldn't move, but also like you out there.
His defense is
I
also
like
not
that.
that good, right, Carson? Right,
Very
Carson?
No, it's
Very
not.
bad.
Yeah,
Very
it's
bad.
his liability. I like that Riv went with
And
the
that's what-
Rockets as his team with the most pressure, even though I don't think they're under that much pressure. I think they are a team that was a second seed because they play hard every night. They play defense,
matters.
but not necessarily because like they were like a real second seed. I think they were always a clear first round exit.
Because I did say before I start, this isn't the team with the most pressure, but this is a team with
Yes.
a different type of
I understand. They
Sneaky
need to make a
pressure.
move, and the clear move is upgrading the 2-guard position.
Yeah,
But-
he sucks.
I have there are 4 teams that I think are under the most pressure this offseason. Number 4, I think, is the Cavaliers. Number 3, I think, is the Warriors.
Let's go, Carson.
Number 2,
Let's do it,
I think,
I agree. Let's do it. Let's lock
is
in.
the Denver Nuggets.
That would be my number
You,
one.
you take OKC to 7 games. It's clear that Jokic has a high enough ceiling in
Aaron
Florida.
Gordon,
You can
respect him
take
too.
an all-time team like this to 7 games. You need to get some better help, some better depth around him. But all those 3 teams have something in common. They have an injury excuse they can use. The Cavaliers, we were injured. The Warriors, Steph was hurt.
We'd have
The
beat
Nuggets,
shit out of Minnesota.
Aaron Gordon, game 7 wasn't
MPJ.
healthy. MPJ was hurt. They can use these injury excuses. The Lakers are number 1 because they can't use any excuse. Our
Man.
roster
had a torn
our-
meniscus.
the Lakers roster wasn't good enough to get out the first round.
LeBron
That's
had
the
a
bottom
torn
line.
meniscus.
He was dancing a couple days after on video.
That's the
No, facts,
recovery
he was
period.
crazy.
You're not a
Facts, he
casual.
was.
That was a
Stop.
calm month after.
The Lakers got eliminated because their roster just isn't good enough. And the date that I'm looking for with the Lakers is August 2nd. That's when Luka is eligible to sign a 4-year, $229 million extension. This next season, he's under contract. Next year, he has a player option that he can opt out into, and he can be a free agent if he chooses. That August 2nd deadline, although he's already said he wants to remain with the Lakers, I am curious to see that if Rob Pelinka doesn't push the right buttons, if Luka doesn't accept that extension and then opts to test free agency next offseason.
Hey,
I think
pal, the Don's here to
that's-
stay.
that's
Whether you
one
like
of
it or not.
That's one of the
Luka
biggest
Magic.
storylines for next
That's a
season in
Laker
the
for
NBA.
life.
Yo, Luka, come to Houston.
Be that ass.
Come to Houston.
Be honest.
That would be
He
nuts.
wants to
Go
go
to
there.
he goes from Dallas to Houston.
You can have everything but a man. I'm talking about everything's on the table.
Rob Pelinka this
No,
offseason
I
has to
agree.
make enough moves to where Luka looks at the roster and says, I can win with this. I can make a deep playoff run with this. And that's a lot of pressure on the Lakers.
Is it
100%.
reasonably possible for the Lakers to become a true contender this offseason?
Do we get Jared Allen?
No.
I'm asking a genuine question.
how
Do
you
we
gonna
get
get
Jared
What
Allen?
what are you offering?
That's
We
Well,
would have
2023.
to-
DFS?
we have to trade Reeves.
20
Rui
first.
Hachimura.
I don't even
would
think
have
they
Rui
want
DFS
Reeves. I
first.
don't even think they want Reeves. I think that they would want
The
Wayne.
Cavs do not want Rui. Let's start there. They're good.
All right.
But they want DFS. DFS in Cleveland would be sick.
Hey, we'll send you a
I don't know
call.
if I can. I don't know if I can afford to give him up genuinely. I'm not even
Yeah, I
making. a
can't.
You're
joke.
running out of good defenders.
No, I agree. That would be a huge problem for the Lakers.
Hey,
I'm
question-
not making a joke. We can't afford losing him because
He's
Vanderbilt.
untouchable.
question-
Riv, you were
question,
right,
fellas.
pal. That guy can't touch the court.
Because of course, Joel, I want to say this. I love your list. Your list was sound.
It was
was
very
good.
good.
Drew, the Lakers are number one. I love the fact that you went that route, the simple route, but the good route. Dels, you didn't go yet, but I know you're going to say something really intelligent. Carson, you didn't go yet, but I know you're going to say something better than
Probably
Dell.
not. Probably
Here's
not.
my question, though.
Fucking idiot.
Here's my question, though. I want to ask you guys a question about a specific team that was in the dumps 2 straight years, then propels themselves to a top 6 seed
Detroit
in the
basketball?
East, and they take the Knicks, which I think we can agree that series was tough. Like
That
Knicks
was a
Detroit,
toss-up series.
That
Knicks
shit
got
was, that
bounced.
shit was that shit was crazy.
Imagine the
much
Pistons played the
pressure-
Celtics.
Yeah, how much pressure do they have this
Wrap 'em
offseason
up
in
at
terms
5.
of just getting another guy for Cade? Ivy's obviously coming back from injury. You've seen Devin Booker potential in the market, Kevin Durant, stuff like that. You know, how much pressure do they have? Because they are also
think-
sitting in a situation where they can't be bad. They have to, at this point, we need you to be good consistently.
Yeah, if you're not top 6 seed again, it's a disappointment. But honestly, it's not just the Pistons. I'm looking at every single team in the East that's actually trying to win is under pressure, because for the last 6 years, this conference has been run by 2 teams. It's been run by the Heat and Jimmy Butler. He got out of there. It's been run by the Boston Celtics, who are not going to be a contender next season.
Thank God.
So every other team that's been on the cusp of being a contender, whether you're looking at the Knicks, we're looking at the Pacers, if they, choke a 3-1 comeback, the Pistons, the Cavaliers, whoever it might be, you have as good of a chance as ever, and maybe ever, because in 2027, Tatum's coming back. We're winning a chip.
They just lost in the second round,
to potentially win a championship and go to the finals. So I'm not just looking at the Detroit Pistons, who I think are under pressure because you have a top 6 seed, and it was kind of with the not thrown together roster, but with some pieces that we're not looking at outside of 3 or 4 guys that are long-term options. It's kind of a roster that feels a bit incomplete. I'm also looking at the Orlando Magic, a team that we had very high expectations for this upcoming season. Of course, injuries derailed their season a bit. Paulo and Franz having the same injury, both missed like over a month. Of course, Jalen Suggs too. Thank you. The KCP contract was a disaster.
Wagner was their best.
I mean, the injuries were they came bunches for them, and they came hard and they came fast. But there was a lot of injuries that you're going to go through. But they're another team that every single year, they're going to be training for Anthony Simons. They're going to be training for LaMelo Ball. Whatever score first point guard is out there, they've been trying to trade for. They haven't been able to make any trade. And I feel like going into next season with the East being so wide open, although they won't be favorites or co-favorites or tri-favorites, whatever the case might be, if you get Apollo and Franz, who can improve his jump shooters, you get a Jalen Suggs who is healthy and get back to that 3-point shooting we saw from 2 years ago, and you added another reliable offensive piece, all of a sudden we're looking at a team that I don't want to say too high expectations for them offensively, because they were the second or third worst offense in basketball last season. But you could still be that, top 5 defense, and you could be maybe like a top 15, top 18 offense. All of a sudden, maybe you can win a playoff series if you get the right matchup. So I think all of those teams in the Eastern Conference, outside of maybe like the goddamn Wizards, who are just completely tanking right now, all of them have a chance to win a playoff series next year legitimately. Of course, we're still looking at the Cavs and the Knicks and the Pacers as favorites, but there's going to be teams in that 4, 5, 6, 7 range. The 76ers, who is Embiid going to be healthy? Can Paul George bounce back into being just a serviceable player? Tyrese Maxey
back
there. Yabu is a free agent, but he played fantastic for them. Yabusele.
Oh, him, yes.
Yeah, Yabusele. Yabu, you never heard that nickname?
No,
Maybe that was a Boston nickname back in the day.
What did you call him, Riv? You called him Yabba Dabba Doo or something.
He said Yabba Dabba Dabba. But all of those teams are under pressure. But Philly's another one too, because if you get a healthy Embiid, I mean, why can't they be a top 4 or 5 seed in the East?
We're back.
I think every team in the East is going to be ultra aggressive, with Boston being out the picture this upcoming year.
Yeah, I think Orlando's a great shout. I think Orlando has more pressure on them than Detroit, just because Detroit, obviously, they took the leap this year. And it's okay, let's get Jaden Ivey back and healthy and see how things go. I would not have any problem with Detroit being aggressive, but I also think with Orlando, okay, now we saw them make the leap last year and be really quite competitive in a first-round series and push Cleveland to 7. And then it felt like they took a step back this year. And obviously injuries were a part of it with Suggs and Mo Wagner, but they obviously had Paolo and Franz healthy by the playoffs, and the offense around them was just so incompetent that you have to feel like everybody outside of those two was on the table, and you feel confident about those two because of the level that they played at in the postseason. I think obviously, like you said, Dells, they need an elite offensive guard. There's a very real possibility that they need to upgrade the Wendell Carter Jr. position at center, even though I thought he played pretty well in the playoffs, but it was a bad regular season for him. You need a bench point guard. They've got a number of needs, and it does feel like the timeline for them is a little bit more accelerated just because, we were so pleasantly surprised with Detroit this year, and we were so disappointed with Orlando this year.
I like that. I like that. What about
I'm shocked nobody mentioned the Bucks. How they don't have pressure because of what's everything's transpiring with
Dame is
Giannis.
going to be out for the year, right?
Yeah,
They're just cooked.
I just think they're. I don't know what move they can make. They're a second apron team.
Kyle Kuzma, 30 shots a game. We're here.
Yeah,
terrible.
Love it. I think Denver has the most pressure on them. I do, because I think that obviously they ended up getting very close against OKC. OKC was clearly the better team. Like they had like a plus 64 point differential or something. The games that they won, 2 of them at least, were blowouts, and Denver had to like grind out super close wins in all of theirs. But you were closer than anybody else in the West. You have the best player in the world. And yet, back-to-back years, you've only won 2 total playoff series. That's not good enough. And I think that looking at the roster for Denver, like, it was clear that they would be one of the upper echelon teams in the West, but that they weren't going to be able to go out there and win a title this year. I actually thought that the playoffs was the best that they played because their defense was such an improvement from the regular season. But I think you have to look at MPJ and say, like, that dude is not worth $40 million. Obviously, I feel for him with the AC sprain and these playoffs affecting his shooting, but he is so singularly dependent on that shooting. He's just not an impactful basketball player in any other way. I think they want to get off of that contract. I think that they want to get a more defensive-minded two-way wing, and I think they want to improve their depth. Like, you don't want to be preying on a Julian Strawther masterclass out of nowhere to save you in a playoff game. They need a more complete roster with more depth, with more defensive talent overall, ideally with more three-point shooting, because they should be contending every year, like flat out. They won a title in 2023. They have the best player in the world, and they took a bad approach to team building for the next 2 years, and they invested too much in unknown young players, and they let some really valuable role players walk, and they didn't replenish that talent. Seeing how close they were this year, even in spite of all that, like, they have to be aggressive. They have to be more serious this offseason. And I'm kind of worried they won't be, because it sounds like they're thinking, even though they shook things up, firing Calvin Booth and firing Michael Malone, is like, we basically believe we have the dudes internally. It's just about developing and getting the most out of all of them. And I just don't agree with that. I think that they should be adding known commodities who can help them win now. I think they should move off of MPJ. And if they don't, that would be very disappointing and frustrating.